Emmy. What a lovely, warm welcome. You are just the best at this, I must say.
Thank
I
you.
find myself flowing with your poetic words, and they make me feel really nice inside. So thank you so much for that. Such depth, such wisdom yourself. I love it. And congratulations to everybody there in the Philippines. That was a beautiful starting video. I know it's not one I've seen before, but what a beautiful description of the history of the Brahma Kumaris in the Philippines and with known faces. I really enjoyed seeing everybody speak about their experience. So thank you for that. I know that many are online, I think. And so here in the room, there aren't too many people for me to see other than myself and some pictures on the screen. So I will be sharing a couple of images with you tonight on the PowerPoint. Oh, there you go. There's Marla. Hello. So I think we have until about the hour on the hour. Is that correct, Emmy? And then we begin our question and answer
Yes.
flow from there. Okay, wonderful. So, oh, look, there's Tina. How lovely. Nice to see you. Wonderful. Yeah, old friends, big geographical distance, but no distance of the heart. No distance of the heart at all. Emmy was asking me what's the weather like here, and we have four seasons in Canada. So imagine the leaves are just beginning to turn bright, bright red, and they're beginning to fall from the trees. It's absolutely beautiful, my favorite time of year. So it's still warm enough in the day, but a little crisp. So the air feels fresh all the time. It's really a gift, I think, of Canada is fresh air. I noticed when I come home to Canada from travels always, I think, oh, we've got good air here, generally speaking. And I asked Emmy, what's the season there? And she said, oh, we have four seasons too. We have hot and very hot, and then we have wet and very wet. So I think you're in your very wet season, from what I understand. It's nice. Now I know there's four seasons in Philippines. So I like very much this topic, finding quiet, and it really got me thinking about where are we finding quiet in this world, you know? Um, and especially finding quiet every day. Imagine that. And it made me wonder, you out there sitting in connection and conversation with me now, you in the Philippines and me sitting here in Canada, I was wondering, where are you finding quiet
Mm.
at this time in your life? Take a moment and just scan your world, your experience, and see if you can locate where are you finding quiet.
Yeah.
And I know for me, they're really small pockets in the day that I create in my life. I create in my world. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But of course, the only place where I could consistently find quiet, if I wanted to, would be inside. And of course, even inside of us, there's so much noise that we have to really look for the quiet space. But once we find it, it is always there for us. So, where are you finding quiet? The purpose of this chit chat really is to explore where we could find quiet consistently within ourselves. And then it made me think, well, are you finding it, but are you looking for quiet? Or have you just kind of given up? Have you surrendered to a world of noise and confusion. I look around at my friends, I look at my family, I look at my work colleagues, I look at the social activists. I was a peace activist for decades here. I think of myself still as a peace activist, but I think of it as inner activism, because I know in the activist life that I was leading, I was getting less and less peaceful and more angry and frustrated and more noisy, actually, less quiet. I'm quieter now. Um, but I look around at my friends and family, and I see many have just given up. They've just surrendered to the noise, to the confusion, and they just struggle to stay afloat in that kind of mess. So I wondered for everyone who's listening, are you looking for quiet or have you surrendered to the noise? And I'm hoping, and I actually know that there's a part of all of us that refuses to surrender to the noise and the chaos and the confusion. There's a part of us that says, no, I want to find quiet. I want to live a more quiet life. In fact, any of our efforts to create peace in the world around us, to create justice, to create kindness, to create compassion, any of our efforts, I know, are to create a space in the world, to create a world of peace, a world where it's okay to be, just to be, you know. There'd be a lot less noise in the world we're all looking for. So I know that today I read a research study the other day about how much noise there is in our world. And where the meditation center is in Halifax is on the major route to the hospital. So we hear ambulances every day. And even just in the 15 years that we've been in this particular location, I've noticed in the last 5 years or so that the sirens are louder, much, much louder. And I thought, is it just me? Because I think my hearing might be going just a little bit. So, how would these be louder if I'm at the stage where I'm starting to lose? And I looked online and I discovered no, in fact, in North America, the volume on the ambulance sirens has increased in the last 5 years. And it's increased because the ambient noise, the rest of the noise in the world around, it has also intensified so much that in order to be heard, the ambulances have had to do two things. They've had to vary their sound so it breaks through the other white noise that's there, and they've had to increase the volume. So I wasn't going crazy. Things are getting louder. And people are rushing more. I find when I go out into the world, I really have to be quite conscious to move slower, to be inside myself in that silent space, because it's so easy to get caught in the flow of rush energy out there. So we've got more noise, we've got more rushing, more activity, and that's a different kind of noise. Actually, it might not be for the ears, but it's a noise of the spirit, very active, very intense. So these things are increasing. And we know that there's a domino effect of this increase of noise. And that domino effect is increasing stress. And when one person is stressed, what happens? They convey that stress to someone else. Their reaction is much shorter. Their trigger is quicker, and this creates a domino effect. So now we become a contagion. Everybody's stress passes to the next person, passes to the next person. And before you know it, we're all loud, we're all rushing, we're all stressed. And that's the world we live in. And I think it's exponential. I see it increasing around me. very, very quickly. You know, what used to be isolated pockets of stress, friends that would come and talk about their stress factors, there were also lots of stories about happy times. Now I tend to hear more stress, more busyness. And of course, the health effects of this noise, this confusion, this chaos, we're all hearing it, we're all feeling it, we're all seeing it in our friends and family. We also know, according to research, that silence is medicine, that silence actually calms, it lowers, reduces blood pressure. It also um, calms the heart, so it reduces the heart rate. When I'm stressed, of course, my heart rate goes up. And when I have silence, all of my internal physiological systems seem to reset. They come into a calm. So this is very beneficial. This is why we want to find quiet, why we want to make quiet in our lives, make space for silence, because it means I will be calmer, I will be healthier, I will be more peaceful. And of course, you all know that with the Brahma Kumaris, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a contagion of peace. And in a world of incredible noise, meeting somebody who's silent inside is quite noteworthy, is quite remarkable. I may have shared this before, but I'm a big fan of Nelson Mandela, and there was a movie made about him called Invictus. It's about the rugby team and how he came, into power during the time of the World Cup. And the actor Morgan Freeman, who played Nelson Mandela in this movie. And we all know Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, and his safe place in prison was inside himself. So without, calling himself a meditator, he, I think, meditated. He definitely came inside to an oasis inside himself, because inside prison there was no external oasis, of course. And the actor who played him in this movie was asked once, well, when as an actor you have to mimic, you copy the gestures or the intonation, you copy the real person in order to play them. What did you copy to when you studied Nelson Mandela? And his answer surprised me. He said, well, the characteristic of Nelson Mandela that is most obvious or notable when you meet him is the silence behind his eyes. I thought, wow. And then when you watch Nelson Mandela, you see it. You see how silent he is inside, very stable. So, silence, we create silence, we look for silence, but when we find it, it actually has a very beneficial effect on our health, on our well being. Finland, the country of Finland, did a national branding campaign in 2010. They wanted to brand themselves as a place of silence. So, for tourists looking for something unique, the thing they could find in Finland that was unique was the silence that existed there. And Finns are known for being silent with each other. There's not a lot of small talk. They don't go for chitter chatter all the time. So culturally, it was significant, but also as a vast open space with very little population. They branded the country as a place of silence, which I thought was very interesting in a world that was longing for silence. So most of us live our days in storms, and I think you're in what you call typhoon season or cyclone season. Here we call it hurricane season. But, in the time of storms, in the external environment. But we're living, of course, in a world full of political, economic, social, health, personal storms as well. But in a time of storm, we know there is always the eye of the storm. That's what we would like to explore today in this little chit chat. And of course, that's what meditation offers us, is to find the eye of the storm and consciously, on a minute to minute basis, to choose the eye of the storm over the storm. Because in matters of consciousness, we can choose where I place my attention. Will it be internally in the silent space within, or will it be externally? Even inside myself, will I pay attention to the storm of thoughts and feelings, or will I pay attention to the silent space within? So I'd like to, one more metaphor maybe to get us started before we do our first kind of meditative experience. The other one is this. Very often it feels like, in life, as life gets more complicated, we can feel a bit like we're walking through a maze, trying to find our way to peaceful solutions, to happy exits, even just to be free from the confusion, the chaos in my mind and in my life. And of course, when I don't feel free, I'm just kind of always bumping up against some kind of wall. And when you're in the maze at ground level, of course, this is what happens is you bump into another wall and you have to turn and look another way. And it's a dead end. And maybe there is another way and it gives you the space to walk for a short time and then you meet another wall. So, of course, the only way, the best way, the most lovely way to get through something like that is to look from above, to get up and out of it. So, this is what we do with meditation. We go up and above everything and look down. So, I'll invite you now to do just a couple of little experiences with me right now. And wherever you're sitting, we will do a meditation, but I think this will be more like a reflective contemplation. I'm going to invite you just for the next minute or so to take a moment and close your eyes. Just simply close your eyes. And you'll notice that there'll be little flickers of light, maybe from the screen or maybe from the lights around you, still in your mind, even though your eyes are closed. And now, if you can just rub your eyes together, your hands together, sorry, rub your hands together and place them over your eyes. So now you'll notice that it's darker. What we're doing is we're creating a visual quiet to give the eyes a little rest from everything they see all day long. So just enjoy this for 5 more seconds. Hands over eyes, creating darkness. Again, there may be little spots of light that you're retaining in the mind's eye, but generally there will be darkness. And we're giving your eyes a little rest with this visual quiet. How does that feel? I know for me it feels pretty nice. I'm liking it. I don't have one of those iPads for sleeping, but I can imagine if they create this same experience. So as you open your eyes and we let the light come back in, and we let the visual stimulus come back in. Just notice how lovely that was to pull inwards into visual quiet. All we had to do was close our eyes. We added a little extra darkness. So just check how you feel after doing that. Such a simple activity. So simple. But we created a little inner space of visual quietness. The next one, I'm going to ask you to gently put your hands in front of you in the Namaste pose. This is something they do a lot in India. I find ever since COVID, actually, here at the center, people do this more often. It's like they want to say, thank you. They want to say, I appreciate, what I've received here. And because we couldn't touch or hug during COVID times, I noticed that people began to adopt this posture. That's very sweet. It's lingered even now. Here in Halifax, people do this a lot, and I find myself doing it a lot. It's very sweet. But I'll invite you just to do this now intentionally. Put your hands in front of you. And now to take, just to see what that feels like. Very nice. It's very grounding, very centering. And if you close your eyes, it creates a quiet, centered, grounded space within. But now I'm going to invite you to remove your hands, take them apart, and just lay them on your lap or on your chair or wherever you're sitting. And I'll invite you now to keep your eyes closed. And I'm going to ask you I'm going to set my timer for this. I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute, very, very little amount of time. But I'm going to ask you to take an entire minute to bring your hands back into that namaste pose with your eyes closed. It will help you be patient. So we're going to begin now. And just very slowly, slowly move your hands bit by bit by bit so that it takes an entire minute to return your hands to the namaste pose. And I'll let you know when we're at 15 seconds. So here we go. Quiet, slowly moving. We're at 20 seconds remaining. 10 seconds. Wow. Okay, time. Gosh, I didn't even get there. I thought a minute would be much, much longer. Okay, but hopefully you're getting there now. Okay. So just check and see how you feel inside in this moment. And what we did was something very, very interesting. What we did in this little exercise is we actually created quiet of the spirit. And actually, patience is quietness of the spirit. So just by forcing, by cooperating with this activity and allowing yourself to go very, very slowly, to bring your hands together, you brought a quietness to the spirit through patience. Do you feel it inside? It's lovely, isn't it? Very nice. So it made me think about, gosh, if patience is a quietness of spirit, where in my life would I like to bring this quietness? Where would I like to be more patient? And well, the list is long. So I don't know about you. Many, many places, just generally speaking, I would like to bring this quietness of spirit to my life in all areas. But thinking about patience as quietness, lovely, no? Just intentionally doing things more slowly. And what would that look like? What would that feel like if I brought this quietness of spirit, patience into my life? So now, as we move more and more into the quiet that we are finding in this little chit chat, I'm going to invite us now to do the quietness that maybe we more traditionally associate with the topic of quietness. We've done visual quietness, and then we did quietness of spirit, and now the quietness of sound. I'm going to use sound, and it will be about 40 seconds long. It's not very long, but I'm going to play this Tibetan chime, this bowl, and I'm going to invite you to listen with your ears, and again, close your eyes. It'll be much more potent experience for you. And just listen to the sound, this beautiful sound of the bowl until it disappears completely and you find yourself inside in quietness. So here we go. Enjoy. Do you hear the silence in your mind? This is your silence. This is your place of quiet within the tiny, still point of the soul. We call it soul consciousness. It is actually being in the awareness of this still point of silence within me. This is the only reliable place to find quiet in our world at this time. Take a deep breath in wherever you are. I'd like to share with you, because I know we're moving now towards, Q&A, but I'd like to share with you a couple of lessons that I've learned about finding quiet in this world and bringing quiet to a noisy world. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been an activist for a long time. And then coming to the Brahma Kumaris and learning to meditate, uh, learning for the first time that this point of stillness was actually within me, and all my efforts to create it in the world outside were coming from a noisy place and therefore adding noise to the world. But that now that I had discovered this still point inside, my activities, my efforts to change the world could come from this still place, from this quiet. And they would actually be qualitatively different actions, qualitatively different energy that I would bring to activism. And my life has changed dramatically since that time, as has my approach to activism. And I thought I would share with you three lessons that meditation, Raj Yoga, the Brahma Kumaris has brought to the activism that I do now. Still very involved with community, and one of them, it stems from, and I know you had this slogan recently in the Philippines that we are the solution, and I've been wondering because I think for me activism now is very much that I am the solution. But then the question becomes, how am I the solution? It was Gandhi who said, be the change you want to see in the world. And I take that very much to heart, is that I am the solution when I am acting like the solution, when I am radiating the energy of the solution, when I am the solution. So, how can we be a solution? How are we the solution when we just see the world getting more and more crazy? And recently I discovered this quote by Angela Davis. She was a black-bodied woman in the USA and a feminist. So she was fighting against, racism, against sexism, against many things. But she was also a visionary. And one of her quotes, which I like very much, was, you have to act as if it was possible to radically change the world. And you have to do it all the time. Wow. So it embodies, hope, optimism, courage, strength, determination, but you have to act as if it was possible. So when you're getting frustrated, when you're getting fed up, when you're getting disheartened, you're certainly not acting as if it's possible. So, and you have to do it all the time. So for me, that meant I really, really have to hold a vision of a beautiful world. I have to hold a picture in my mind of what I am trying to create. And that vision actually feeds my sense of it being possible. If I lose the picture, if I lose the vision, then I get trapped in the storm. I get trapped in battle mode. I get caught in the default position of fighting, because we've all been trained to fight. We've all been trained to argue. We've all been trained to protest, to resist. But I don't want to do battle anymore. I actually want to be this beautiful vision of the world I'm trying to create. That's how I am going to be the solution. So I have to hold this vision of a beautiful world. So many times throughout the day, I check and I change what's going on in my mind. I check and I reset in my mind what I want to create in this situation. And, sometimes the vision is the big vision of the world I want to create, a world of peace, of respect, of love and support and kindness and compassion. And I translate that into this moment. I'm talking with somebody who does not share my belief of this, who is maybe full of ego and anger, and maybe even attempting to dominate or to control. And in that moment, I translate my vision for a beautiful world into what do I want in this moment? Do I want to win? Do I want to dominate? Do I want to argue? Do I want to get angry? Do I want vengeance? Do I want to point out how they're wrong? Do I want to wrong make? Do I want to be righteous? I mean, there are so many ways this little conversation between us could play out. But in that moment, I check myself and I reset to my inner silence. And I translate my vision for a beautiful world into an intention for this moment. What would I like to see happen between me and this other person? And if it means what I would like to see happen is that I hold my vibration of peace and love and kindness, even when faced kind of the worst challenge or the toughest challenge, then I would have succeeded. Then in that moment. Now, maybe I can't say genuinely sweet things, but that would be better if I could, or even just being silent, but not being submissive. I have to be giving energy. And it's not righteous indignation. It's not holier than thou energy. It's, I know that this is possible. And I know that even though what you're bringing to me in this moment is not kind, is not lovely, I know that this is possible. And I'm going to hold that. So it's one of the lessons. Toughest thing I've ever done. Toughest thing maybe any of us will ever do. But I find refuge, solace, and power from my inner silence in those moments. Holding this posture in my mind. Raja Yoga is known as the king of all yogas because rather than the Hatha Yoga, together with Hatha Yoga, but in Hatha Yoga, we hold a posture of the body and then it brings strength to the mind or quiet to the mind. But in Raja Yoga, the reason it's called the king of all yogas is because we're just holding a posture in our minds. There's no body involved. And so throughout the day, my practice is to hold a posture of peace in my mind. So that's the second strategy or lesson I've learned from the Brahma Kumaris in meditation. And the third is to surrender the impulse to fight. So I've already spoken about this a little bit, but the impulse to fight is so strong sometimes. If it's to get the last word, if it's to, it's hard to use the word trump, but to take to dominate, I guess, to override someone else with my words, the clarity of my words, the strength of my words, the brilliance of my words, even energetically to take over. The impulse to fight or even just to argue is fighting. So surrendering the impulse to fight and then to stay focused on a positive outcome. I know this person in front of me is trapped in ego in this moment. They're trapped in anger. They're wanting to dominate. They're wanting to push an agenda, whatever. Let that be. Because the big picture is the little guy always wins. He doesn't win in the short term, but the little guy always wins. Peace always wins. Love always wins. For some reason, I believe this completely. I have seen it so many times in my life. And I know we've all seen that, where somebody who in the moment dominates, takes over, even rules, ends up suffering terribly later because all of that comes back at them. It may not be in my lifetime, it might be seen later in life, but always, peace prevails, peace returns. I'm thinking of so many times I have seen just in my life with individuals, but let alone, we don't have such a climate here of political intensity, say in Canada. But even for what little we have, seeing people locally and nationally, have their day and then fall. And that fall is unpleasant and difficult. And I really wouldn't wish that on anyone, actually. But I do know that, positive outcomes tend to prevail. So those are my three lessons. Surrendering the impulse to fight's a big one. That's number three. And stay focused on the positive outcome. Um, because we know this as a principle spiritually, my outer world always reflects my inner world. It's a law that my repeated thoughts will become a reality. It's a law that what I think will eventually manifest. So my practice and my intention is to constantly keep this thought in my mind and repeat it so it will come externally. And I know that every moment is a choice. Every moment is a choice. I can choose to stay in the eye of the storm or the storm. So every moment is a choice. I stay in the storm or in the eye of the storm. So I'll ask you just to take a moment now as we come to the Q&A time. What thought do you need to create inside yourself in this moment to begin to shape the outer world you want to see? So if you could create that thought right now, take a moment, because we know that whatever thought I have inside of me is going to take shape outside of me. What thought do you need to create inside right now to begin to shape the outer world you want to see? This thought will be fed by silence. But more importantly, this thought, if you can anchor in it, will actually help you remain in the eye of the storm, will help you remain in quiet internally. Because a thought with power in it nourishes you and keeps you engaged internally. So just going to ask you to take a moment now. I'm going to mute myself so that you're able to sit with this just quietly for a moment before Emmie comes on. So take a moment and just create your thought. And the final thing before Emmie comes on is the thing that we do with these powerful thoughts in order to help them shape our world is we nourish them with God's light and love. So I invite you for a moment now just to sit with your powerful, beautiful thought in that still point of silence within, which is the soul. and to go upwards. Cast your mind upwards to the divine presence of God and feel God's light and love filling your mind with such light and such power that it gives light to this beautiful thought of yours. Visualize this thought taking shape in the world around you. Just visualize it spreading around you like light energy to the world around you so that it begins to shape your world. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, Sister Judy. But of course, you know that by now. Maraming salamat means thank you very much. You've done it again.
Salam.
We've done it again.
We've done it again, Emmie.
We see that more than 200 were here on Facebook and Zoom from start to finish. For many
Wow.
others who came in a little later or much later, please watch out for the replay, which will be announced maybe soon, right? And now let me not take precious time away from these questions. Actually, chats. Do we have questions in the chat? Okay, let's see. I have 2 comments here and 2 questions. No names. That's okay. No names. You don't want to be greeted. Let's see with the first comment is Sister Judy, this is not my first time to listen to you, and I have taken copious notes from your classes that I have attended online. But it's true what was said earlier. I am not always quick when faced with situations to apply important points that I have learned. For example, I promise not to get affected by current events. I think this has afflicted many here in the Philippines. And then I cannot help myself from watching the news and discussing it endlessly with family, friends, and coworkers. Of course, I end up angry for hours and lately for days. Like I have been angry since Sunday. I was telling you, Sister Judy, that last Sunday there was a lot of rallies in many parts of the Philippines, big rallies, very angry rallies. Yes, I shall start, but this comment ends on a positive note. I shall start right away with the audiovisual exercises that you shared. More ambitiously, I shall try to be the solution wherever I'm at all the time. I think this was a quote from from the slide.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, whoever put that in there, because you're not alone. We had somebody come to learn to meditate just yesterday. And when I asked her, why do you want to meditate? She said, so I can listen to the news without getting angry. That was to learn meditation. So we're all there with you. And yes, it takes a very conscious effort to hear the news, to stay abreast of what's going on, but to not sink into it and get trapped in it because it will affect us. We have to use some discipline with that, but we also have to practice staying in silence in ourselves. If I'm not doing that on a daily basis, then of course I will get trapped. So if you keep the practice going on a daily basis of coming into silence, then that silent space within will become more powerful and you will find it more easily and quickly, which is what we all want to do. We want to find it quickly, right? Yeah. It's the only way we're able to offer life jackets to others or to throw the life ring out there to others is if we're actually in the quiet place ourselves, right? Otherwise, we're flailing about and we're all flailing about together. And maybe we feel close because we're all flailing about together, but we're still going down. So, how can I feel close to all my people and commiserate? Of course, we understand these are very difficult times, but somehow not feed the anger, not feed the disheartenment, right? And yet, you don't want to be glib. You don't want to be, falsely positive. Means, of course, this is a difficult time. It's very difficult to stay positive when you feel so disheartened, but that's our effort. And that's our offering to the world.
Thank you. The next comment is very clearly a question, and it's more personal. I am no name. I am almost 40. I should have calmed down years ago, but I'm afraid I missed that train. Is there a deadline for finding the quiet that you seem to know so much about? Deadline at 40.
Do you know, I began meditating at 40 and I had two children. Um, you too, Emmie. So we know
Yes.
there's no timeline. We have somebody here who began in her 70s and she's it's a very quiet, silent soul inside. There is no deadline. And, I have to say, the word calm, it's almost like a trigger. There's this little post that says, never in the history of the word calm, no, never in the history of the world did anyone become calm by being told to become calm. So when you tell someone be calm, you never become calm. In fact, the opposite happens. So trying to tell ourselves to be calm just doesn't happen, does it? It just doesn't happen. So no, we have to, it's almost like two things. One of them is I have to uh, um, travel inwards to that silent space, as we did in this activity. And if you experienced it, you know it's possible. If you haven't, and if you didn't today in our little activity, if you didn't experience that, then that's okay. Go to the meditation center. They will help you get there. Because once you get there and you know it's there, it becomes your go to, your home base and you can return to that always. So that's the first thing. One is knowing it's there and finding it, but then the other is the mental muscle of just practicing coming back to that place. Because we always get trapped in the storm, we come back to the eye. We get trapped, we come back. I mean, I still do that throughout the day. No problem. That is not failure. What that is rep training like they do at the gym. You have to do several reps, repetition training. So we're doing repetition. We go out, we come in, we go out, we come in, we go out, we come in, but it's quicker, the coming in, and it happens faster, and I notice it quickly. So I'm less time spent flailing in the storm. I notice it more quickly and I bring myself back more quickly. And because I have more inner power, which I draw from God, I can actually stay there longer in that silent place. So this is the whole purpose of Raj Yoga meditation, is to help all of us get there and stay there, because our world needs that. God is our best helper in this. He's got the power. I haven't got the power all on my own to stay in the eye of the storm. I need the extra power. That's why we tap into God. And that's why Raj Yoga is so popular for people of all religions. It doesn't matter what your religion. God is there, but as a power source. So in our meditation, we connect directly to God. So we get that power. We love God so much because he's helping us stay afloat, and more than stay afloat, become helpers to throw the life buoy out to others, right? So please get started. 40 is never too late. And thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Okay, I just got a message from Sister Vicky. She said this will be replayed on YouTube shortly. But I will have to impose on you just a little longer, Sister Judy. There are two more messages here that will the writers took some effort to put it out there. This next one is looks more like a comment, but I sense a question inside there.
Okay.
I'll just read it. Sister Judy, I am among the multitudes in this country who are in a perpetual rush to appointments, for work, to beat the traffic, deadlines, etc. I hardly get to plan my next moves, career-wise, and especially not my life as a whole. I can't really describe the state of my mind as not quiet. I just don't think I have experienced many of the things you described in your talk as the outcome of a meditation practice, which I would like very much to do eventually. There's a question in there, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I think you caught it, Emmy. I think you caught it. Because, for me, sometimes, so some of us hear meditation commentaries say, and they're beautiful words, and off they flow and off they go. And those, sometimes I don't follow it. Sometimes it really doesn't speak to me. And so then I didn't get the quiet. I didn't arrive at the destination that the voice was taking me to, right? So there's that. Or I'm trying to meditate and I'm forcing myself to sit and be quiet. And it's like the be calm thing. It never works. It never works. We cannot empty our minds. Our minds are full. So they're always going to be full, no problem. But I can choose a thought that makes me feel good and invest in it. That will bring me to quiet. So I am a peaceful soul, or I am a soul. I am a being. I am silence. I am God's child. I love God. Anything. Pick a thought. It doesn't matter what the thought is. It's just a thought that stops you, kind of stops you in your tracks because you like the thought and you're willing to invest a little bit of energy in that thought. And then suddenly you find yourself in silence. The other thing is because we're all moving so fast, it's not silence and it's not noise in our mind. It's almost numb. It's almost like we're just going, we're just kind of caught in the wave and we're going with it. And I find you have to be really intentional to step off the treadmill. Like as a practice, when I'm in a crowd, I walk slower than the crowd. It doesn't take much to do. But maybe some of you have heard my canoeing metaphor before, but I used to whitewater canoe with my husband, and he was always at the back, and I was always at the front where imminent death was because that's where the rocks were. I hated it anyways. But the thing about whitewater canoeing is that you could die. The water's rushing and crazy and loud. But the trick is you back paddle and you can control the boat and go slower than the current. And then you turn the boat slightly so that you go fast through the waves to get out the other side safe and alive. So, this is a very powerful metaphor for if you're trying to go faster than time, you never will succeed. You will exhaust yourself. You can't go faster than your deadlines. You can't go faster than your calendar or the career track or the people around you. But you can have most power when you go slower. Step off the treadmill. Just walk slightly slower than the people around you who are rushing to all of those calendar events, and you will notice yourself feeling more powerful. And you will find that time cooperates with you, and you will get where you're going, not just on time, but in a better state of mind. And it will be a more meaningful encounter wherever you arrive. And you won't spend the first 10 minutes of your encounter saying how busy you are and how crazy it was getting here and how you couldn't catch the bus and how there was a traffic jam. I mean, do you know how much time we spent telling each other that? We have limited time and we waste it on these things, but you will find yourself arriving calm. And when everyone else talks about how busy they are and how hard it was to get here on time, you'll just be quiet and you'll be calm and you'll be one less voice adding to the cacophony. Not easy, not easy.
I
Stick with
will.
it.
I missed the deadline for whitewater Canoeing?
Canoeing. That ship has
That's
sailed,
the
Emmy.
deadline. Okay. This,
Yeah,
this last, it's okay. Maybe in
yeah,
my
it's
next
okay. You
life,
didn't, maybe,
or this
maybe you
last
don't have
last,
to.
it's definitely a question, but it's not an emergency. And I think it's a question that many would benefit from. Okay.
Okay.
As the youngest child, and thanks to tradition, I was the official choice among the siblings in a brood of five to stay with our elderly parents. That's how it is. I don't know elsewhere, no, that the youngest child gets to stay with the parents. That is not a problem for me, as I also happen to be the favorite son. In fact, the favorite child. I have a good enough job, and my siblings do still help financially. I am most concerned about my mental health. Things are good now, but I keep worrying about the near future when our parents will need more attention and care than I can give without feeling bad about the role that I am playing currently.
Mm,
Is this
mm.
something that a meditation practice can make easier?
Um, can make what easier? The
Uh,
worry about future?
for him to, no, for him to accept, I think for him to accept without feeling bad. Well, he's not feeling bad, but
No, no,
for
but
sure.
the worry about the future, and will the money be there and will it be okay? Yeah, I think so. For me, there's the meditation practice, which is finding the still point. But in Raj Yoga, there's also a philosophy, a worldview. And in that worldview, an understanding of natural cycles and that things play themselves out naturally. And where there's abundance, it goes into depletion and it comes back to abundance. And so, where, people have, and the law of karma, we learn a lot about the law of karma. So, where, people have been good people, where they have given a lot, say, to their children, then inevitably it will come back to them that they'll be cared for. Yes, via you, the youngest son. Yes, via the others who are helping financially and in many ways. But independent of whether all those people are there or not, an individual will receive help if they have given it to others.
Mm.
So you can rely on some of these very basic core um, truths about their laws of the universe. And we kind of know them intuitively, but it's like one aspect of faith. So we may have faith in God to take care of us, but we can also have faith in these natural rhythms, these natural laws that if your parents have given, they will receive. You don't have to be worried about them. They will be in good hands. Even if all of you disappear somehow, they will receive what they have given. But it sounds like they have a very loving son and family, so they're in good shape. So congratulations for your fortune to be able to take care of them.
It's a law, it's a fortune. Nice. Thank you again, again, and again. Thank you, Sister Judy. And to our wonderfully engaged viewers, we hope to see you again for our next programs. Check out your screens. I think Brother Frederick will soon be rolling out the list of activities are coming up soon.